the Jam Sesh podcast, where we drop the needle on the soundtracks of entire generations. I'm your host, Krushi Salkia, and here every episode is a deep cut. Let's jam. Welcome back to another episode of the Jam Sesh podcast, where we discuss all things music, including things music adjacent. Today we have Dion from the YouTube channel Dion the Taurus, where she dives deep into fashion aesthetics. From coquette to dark academia to indie sleaze, she has covered all the subcultures that have taken the internet by storm. As a diehard Taylor Swift fan, she applies this level of style analysis into deconstructing all of Taylor Swift's eras, connecting the visual soul of the music to the clothes we actually live in. Today we're bridging the gap between the track list and the closet. We're talking about the architecture of a perfect era, the psychology of a signature style, and why, for some of us, Taylor Swift isn't just a songwriter, she's the ultimate blueprint for creative evolution. All right. Hi, Dion. Thank you for joining us. And am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, you are. Is it Krushi?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Of course. So my first question for you is, what first made you interested in analyzing fashion subcultures?
I feel like I always, even as like a kid, would like pick a vibe. Like I was a big Mary-Kate and Ashley movie fan, and I would just like, their Holiday in the Sun movie and like take that era. I like to like put on characters. I was really shy as a kid, so I think that was why. It was just like an easy way to like fake it till you make it. And then obviously Tumblr was very big a part of my life, especially in like 2012, 2014, the early days, and I was a big Skins person, watching like Skins UK. So that definitely was a big introduction into the more formal digital aesthetics. And then TikTok really solidified it back in 2020. I loved how everyone like would make up these little collages and videos with sounds. It was like Pinterest, but even more so. And now Pinterest has those videos too. But yeah, I like kind of personifying things that aren't tangible, which I just think it's kind of like funny and silly, but also makes things a little bit more whimsical.
You said you were shy and it helped you kind of have something to latch onto, and that was one thing I wanted to ask was, what do you think about having these sorts of aesthetics or subcultures or niches when you're growing up into teenagehood, going through your formative years? How do you think it helps form your identity?
I think it's like very natural to try on personas, and I even like, it's so funny telling it now, but I was so afraid of going to this like summer camp that in the car, like, and I was really, really into Skins at the time when my parents were dropping me off, I was like going over in my head that I was going to tell people my name was Effie. Like I was literally going to play the character, and I had never kissed a boy. I had never done any drugs. But I was just going because I was like, I'm just going to act like that, and they're going to think I'm cool and mysterious, and like I'll get friends, and then eventually I'll like drop the actor or something like that. And I didn't end up telling them that my name was Effie, but I elaborated probably my experiences a little bit. I probably embellished a bit. But it ended up honestly working, and I was able to at least just have the confidence to like speak. Like I'm really, really shy. So it was at least just giving me the confidence to put myself out there and then make those connections. So then you can actually make genuine connections. But like sometimes it has to start with the superficial connections, which is just like aesthetics or vibe or energy. And I mean, I literally met my fiance at that summer camp, so that's how that turned out. I'm not saying be like Effie. I'm not saying she's a good role model, but if a little costume, a little armor helps you get out of your shell and helps you make friends, and like now I'm not shy, obviously. So it works. I don't know. I think it's kind of harmless. I think people are a little bit hard on the aesthetics.
So did you do the British accent and everything?
I didn't, luckily, because I went to the year before. No, I've never been to that camp, but I had been to camps previously where a lot of times it's very common for people in the UK to come over and do like Camp America, and like other programs like that. So I I was like, they might call my bluff. I'm not that good. But I'm from Miami Beach originally, so I was like, I can sell a party girl aspect. It's not like I'm from a small town and I've never seen these things. It's just that I had never done those things. So I could embellish or take my friends' stories or take my older brother's stories and kind of just, I don't know, at least just feel like I have something interesting to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you said that a lot of people are sometimes harsh on these aesthetics and subcultures, and the common criticisms are, it might prevent you from developing your own style or personality. And do you think it can hinder or harm you developing your own style and identity?
I think when you make it like 100% an unbreakable character, it gets a little intense. Like I couldn't, one of the reasons why I love YouTube and TikTok and not so much Instagram is I can't keep a consistent aesthetic or a consistent theme. And I don't like to. It doesn't feel genuine. Even like there was a few years like 2021, 2022 maybe. I was like really trying. I was really going for it. Like I was doing the thing, but it's just like I don't know, it feels exhausting like having a theme and doing all that. And I even went on like this like fun sort of girls trip with a bunch of other girls who were into fashion and like coquette and niche aesthetics, and we went to France. And it was like, whoa, you guys don't turn it off. Like, whoa. And like, no shade to them. It's amazing. I like admire it, but like, I'm not going to have my nails done all the time. I'm not going to, I like, just like, oh, you guys don't have an alternative. Whereas like, I'm going to a music festival and literally one of my outfit inspirations, I'm recreating an Effie from Skin's outfit. Like, literally 20 years later or something, she's still my inspo. So that in that way, it's like that can be helpful because I'm like, I love a grungy look, but sometimes I do get concerned. It's like when it becomes all encompassing or when you don't know it's an armor. Like you gotta know it's a facade. Even the character Effie, it was a facade and she's made up and she's written. But like you gotta know that's not 100% all the time. I mean, I guess for some people it is, but I don't know. I think it's there's a balance between the character and I mean, if it's truly you, then I guess it's not a character. I just find that hard and I guess impressive if that is truly you 100% of the time. And I do know people like that. And yeah, I guess that's cool.
I've been thinking about that too. Like sometimes I'll be on Pinterest and I'll see a style or a niche that I really like, but then I also like something that's opposite to that. So then it's like, am I a poser for liking two opposite things? But it's like we're so complex and like there's like so many different parts of us. So you've been inspired by Effie and also lots of different things on Tumblr. I guess what are the different types of styles that comprise your general style right now?
Right now, I feel like in the past maybe like year or so, I've really gone from like or not, I guess not year, but as I've grown up, I went from sort of like this like big, if you think of like a funnel, a big, massive like influx of everything, trying on all these different things. And then you slowly become more consistent or you pick and choose what you like. Like I had a indie sleaze, Urban Outfitters phase. I had a very like skater, PacSun kind of phase. I had a preppy phase, Vineyard Vines, Lily Pulitzer. I had the sort of like 2016, I wouldn't say baddie, I wouldn't go that far, but like the Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Space Buns, like that kind of vibe. Um, and then I got into sustainable style, which is all, thrifting and secondhand. So then in and of that self, when somebody strictly shops secondhand, you can kind of like get it because there's like, okay, you can tell when it's not, I don't know, brand new or brand new on trend or something like that. So then that kind of also develops. But I think a common theme always is like, I love the 60s. I love 60s music. I love 60s style. I was literally shopping on Poshmark for Lily Pulitzer dresses because I love wearing like a white turtleneck underneath it and then go-go boots to do like a 60s vibe. Because I think people have a big misconception about Lily Pulitzer and her stuff is so cute. Then maybe that's the Florida in me as well. But it doesn't just have to be preppy. You can make it like cool. But yeah, I think that's a common theme. And also like bell bottoms and peasant dresses. And like, I feel like a lot of the 60s comes into play. And then same with 80s. I love 80s music and it's influenced my fashion. Like in terms of hairstyles even, like big hair works for me. I have a lot of hair, it's very thick and it's like poofy. So 60s beehives and 80s tease hair work well for me. So I think part of it is like love the music, love the vibe, and it also works for who I am, which is like I'm also thrifty. So wearing outdated 80s or 60s clothes, like it works for my vibe.
Yeah, and I do feel like that's an important part of style formation is just trying on a bunch of different things and then just like picking and choosing what you like and then all that mixed together creates your own unique style. There's lots of subcultures out there like skater culture or preppy culture, like you mentioned, which not only have their styles, but then there's a whole culture, a whole belief system and values and music, and it's a whole culture surrounding it. But what about these like Gen Z micro trends, like the tomato girl or those like things that don't really have a whole culture connected to it? It just like literally centered on just a color. What do you think that says about Gen Z's attitude towards style?
Is it bad if I say I almost like that more than deep sub? Because like I was saying before, sometimes I'm like, is this a character that you just never turn off, or is this like 100% you? And I think some people it's 100% them, and some people it's definitely like an armor that they kind of got lost in the sauce of. And these little things, I've mentioned this on my like YouTube channel. Think of it as like an essay prompt, as an outfit prompt. You don't know what to wear. Like tomato girl, what do you think? What do you think that means? Just make it up. Use your imagination. Like that's what I like about it. I think it's really fun. My most recent fashion video was dressing like springtime animals. I didn't use any animal print. I was just like, what would a bunny look like if a bunny dressed like what would a fox look like? Like but it was actually so fun because it just made me think out of the box, not just wear the same things. But I was like, all right, well, like I have to wear like springy, spongy sneakers for a bunny because I gotta be athletic and hopping. And the bunnies around me, the wild rabbits, are like gray, so I'm gonna be wearing gray. Like I wasn't just trying to make a cute outfit, but I was actually thinking like, what is practical in the sense of dressing like a rabbit or a monarch butterfly. It's like, oh, I should have a green purse because their caterpillars are green. Like it just makes it fun. And like, I don't know. I think as someone who doesn't like to buy new things a lot, buy new clothes, I'm kind of in an era of just buying one or two like expensive pieces a year, but like archival, like, okay, I'm going to have this for the rest of my life kind of thing. Or like just holy grail items. And so in doing that, how do I create something out of nothing? Like, how do I continue to innovate my closet and feel like I'm creating new things with not purchasing anything? So I like those prompts for that reason. I think people look at those niche, tiny micro trend aesthetics and think that it is only hyper consumerism and it's like, oh, about to sell clothes. And like, that's what they want you to think. But like, I mean, you can interpret it that way, of course, but like, you can also just be like, okay, what would this vibe be? What would 90s Halloween babysitter, what would she dress like? What would her hair be like? It's fun. Like, and that's what I mean. It's like a character. It's like, okay, well, she's probably gonna have a scrunchie because she's gonna be running around kids. She's gotta wear sneakers, like probably some stripes. That was big back then. Like, it just makes you think out of the box. I think people can shift their mindset from, you can't blame the aesthetic for hyperconsumerism because hyperconsumerism existed before niche aesthetics. And it's gonna, I mean, if we take them away right now, people are still gonna be doing it. I'm not saying it doesn't contribute, but I'm saying you can put it in a different perspective and make it really like sustainable and anti-consumerism, which is just like refreshing your closet and using your imagination to create outfits you might have not put together because they don't necessarily make sense in being cute, but they make sense because you're dressing like a monarch butterfly or whatever.
Yeah, when you said 90s Halloween babysitter, it's so funny because I instantly had an image pop into my mind, which just shows like there's common patterns and themes that occur. I think that's such an interesting take of thinking it like a prompt. I guess when I saw these subcultures online, I just kind of thought like, oh, do people revolve their whole identity and life around this? Yeah, it just like, oh, let me just try on a whole new look for today. I mean, I also really like to play around with fashion, and I do feel like, you know, your outfit, like the whole look, like the clothes, the accessories, the makeup, the hair, it tells a story, or you're conveying something. It's like, it's an art in itself, and I guess these aesthetics, you can kind of think of them as prompts, as long as you know it's a character, like you said, and you don't think of it as your identity. It's just something you're trying on.
Yeah. not, I think when people see these niche aesthetics, it's like, you know, Revolve or Aerie posting Tomato Girl Summer, and then it's like link in bio, or someone put
Mhm.
all the stuff is on my Amazon storefront. So they think, oh, these niche aesthetics mean I see this, I buy the exact thing, now I'm that aesthetic. And it's like, no, no, no. Take that and be like, okay, what does Tomato Girl Summer mean? All right, it's conveying Italy, it's conveying Mediterranean, it's conveying, you know, big Grecian blues with whites and reds and citrus colors. I mean, even when I said 90s Halloween babysitter, that's 3 words. And we instantly could come up with an entire page of a description, even though we've never met. We don't like, it's just, that's how that's the imaginative part. And I think we could use more imagination and just like kind of silliness of like, what made you put that together? Oh, I was trying to dress like blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. It makes things a little bit more fun.
I guess people associate aesthetics and consumerism because, like you said, it'll be a brand kind of using it to market their products, or influencers who are being paid to sell certain things. But it could just be as simple as, like, oh, this is a color in my eyeshadow palette I've never touched. Like, let's just play with that. Or, like, kind of using things you have and have forgotten about, or in different ways. And, yeah, sparking creativity. And then that can help you develop your new style. Like, you try something new and you're like, oh my god, I love this. This is my new thing. So, yeah, that's like a very positive take on it, because I've heard like all sorts of criticisms online, but I think this is like a really cool way of looking at it. Like, just a fun creative exercise, I guess.
Yeah, it reminds me of playing dress up or
Yeah.
like fashion shows when I was a kid. And like my best friend and I still do it to this day. Like we're going to a music festival and we're like, all right, day one, we're doing like, I'm doing like millennial optimism, like twee, like just freedom, whatever. Day two, we're doing like Zara Larson, Midnight Sun, airbrushed, booty shorts, glitter. And then day three, we're doing like Effie Stoneham, indie sleeves, whatever. But like we put on those, and then we go as like those characters almost. I'm like, oh yeah, so grungy and cool. But it's all like ironic. But I'm happy to have someone else in my life that like gets it, where it's just like, let's play dress up. Like, or when I visited her in New York, it's like, oh, we're going to the Met. All right, I want to dress like a cool artsy girl. I'm gonna wear like a red beret and just like smudgy eyeliner and red lipstick, and it's just like cool. It just makes it more fun to just, I don't know, make everything a little bit of an event or a character, or make everything a dress up.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is. It brings more excitement to life when you just like try on these different identities just for fun. So, for the music festival, did you already decide your outfits for that?
No, just vibes and energy so far.
Yeah.
kind of kind of what we usually do, especially because we're luckily the same size and basically the same size shoe as well. So we just combine suitcases. We usually have plans and then see what each other bring. But there's a pair of gladiator sandals from Anna Sui on Vestiaire that are like this dark inky blue color with studs, and I want them so bad for the music festival for my Effie Stoneham outfit. They are so grungy. I have like a picture. I'm gonna like get a gray t-shirt to like cut up. Like I'm literally gonna recreate the outfit. Like I recreated the jacket from the Lana Del Rey Ride music video because I was like, I always wanted that jacket, and you know what? I'm just gonna make it. I'm just gonna DIY it, and it's like studs and acid wash. It's very 2010, like it's very that era. But I'm like, I love it. Sometimes I just want to feel like Lana Del Rey in that music video.
Mhm. Yeah, and when you said that like millennial optimism, like twee kind of style, I immediately pictured like that hat, like that fedora kind of hat, the dream catcher necklace, like wearing the collared button up all the way to the.
Yeah, like something with a fox on it, and just like
Mhm.
very, like I don't know, just because if we're seeing like Matchbox 20, so I'm like, okay, I want to channel like we're also channeling what the musicians are. So like the Lumineers and like that kind of thing. So it's like, all right, let's be that like Obama era optimist, boho, like 2010s boho kind of thing. And then, yeah, kind of the last days, the Strokes and the Black Keys. So obviously we got to be indie sleaze, grungy, oh yeah, they choose like all American rejects, and so it's like, oh yeah, all American rejects will appreciate like a airbrushed baby tee. That's very their energy, not the obvious, but like again, you're making a character up in your mind. You're making a scenario and a dress up in your mind. Like I'm dressing up for the Strokes. I'm dressing up for all American rejects. I'm dressing up for the Lumineers, and that in and of itself gives you a whole idea and what makeup and what hair that means and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you touched on something really important there because when you described the style and the accessories, but then you also brought up the feeling of optimism. You brought up bands like the Lumineers, and then you brought up politics like Obama era. And fashion is never just fashion. Music is never just music. There's a whole culture, a whole belief system that accompanies it, and it's influenced by politics, by economics, by everything that's going on in the world culminates into this very specific subculture. And I was curious, can you ever separate fashion from what's going on in the world? Can you ever separate music from what's going on in the world?
Oh my gosh, I'm the worst person to ask because from like day one, I've always been like, you cannot separate politics from anything. You can be at like anything. And my college friends used to literally like try to make up things. They're like, this napkin. I'm like, they're destroying the Amazon rainforest for paper. I'm like, I can, like, I will find it. They're like, anything you can think of, Dion will be able to find the political context of. I was a political science major and sociology minor. So I'm into that stuff, but absolutely not, obviously, is my answer. One of my favorite fashion books of all time is called Dress Codes. And it is written by Richard Moore, I think. I forget. But he went to an HBCU. He went to an all-black college, and so did his father. And a lot of those colleges and universities have uniforms because they are trying to teach these young black men and women how to perform in society. And some of it is like, is this outdated, or should we allow all this freedom in college, or is this realistic? And like it goes into respectability politics, but it starts from the very beginning in America, like during like the slave trade and everything, all the way through now. And they talk about like sportswear, and even all the way up until I think like Trayvon Martin. Like it's that recent, so it really spans in the context of Black Americans, but still like of everything. And the book is so good. I've literally in like I think 5 of my videos I've like referenced it or quoted it. I think it's just genius. It's so eye-opening.
Oh, I'll definitely have to check it out. I think I've heard of it though. But yeah, like what you said, if you look at something fashion related, you can somehow figure out a way to connect it to politics because it's all connected. Sometimes what happens is a certain fashion statement doesn't come because someone is trying to make a fashion statement. It comes out of their circumstances or necessity. For example, in grunge style, which is associated with flannels, they weren't trying to make a fashion statement with flannels. That was just what loggers in the Pacific Northwest naturally wore because of the weather and convenience. But then it became a fashion statement in the 90s, and then it came back again in the 2010s. And by then it's like lost all meaning. Kind of, it's so far removed from what it originally symbolized. So when you think of the evolution of fashion trends, do you think that it kind of dilutes the original purpose and like you get further and further removed from what it was originally meant to signify? Or do you think it takes on a new meaning instead?
I think it's both, honestly. I'm thinking of like corset, which is, went from functional to oppressive to now, we buy them for fun to dress up at the Renaissance Fair or something like that. Um, but I also think of like cultural appropriation where it's like, okay, we don't want to be doing that. And if, people wearing in, speaking of the millennial optimism era, people wearing kefias as like a style for like from Urban Outfitters. Meanwhile, we're bombing Iran and Iraq back then, so it's like so ironic that as a fashion statement, like I mean, even in Vampire Weekend song, I spilled kefir on my keffiyeh. Like that is in one of their songs from back then because I think I'm pronouncing that right, but because it was so common in that sort of like NYU, Columbia, 2007, 2008 era, and we didn't know what it means. I mean, like these Americans wearing this statement that now obviously means something completely different when, you know, people are very mindful when they are wearing a keffiyeh and what it means and what statement they're making. Whereas back then they were just getting it from Urban Outfitters because they thought it was cool. So, I mean, that's just like in such a short amount of time. But oh yeah, that's how it can kind of change meaning and maybe not culturally appropriate and I mean, you can't stop the meaning of clothing. It's going to keep evolving, but I think there is a way of like, what is your intention? Are you doing it ignorantly? Are you doing it appreciatively? Are you doing it as a take back? Are you doing it as like for, you know, for fun in a harmless way, like a corset, for example? I think it's a little bit of intention and impact, unfortunately. And with like the harsh eye, it's like, you know, people will look at something 20 years ago, maybe like criticize people, the Vampire Weekend NYU 2008 era of like, how dare you wear those? And it's like, okay, that is a discussion to be had. And are we going to talk about that in 20 years when everyone's wearing them as a like free Palestine statement and people being like, oh, well, just wearing a scarf wasn't enough, was it? You were just, you know, virtue signaling. You know, you can always like hindsight 2020 and be like, that was inappropriate. So I guess it's intention over impact, and I think in any way you're just going to have a negative impact because things are just ever evolving. So eventually what you did is probably not going to be viewed upon in a positive light, whether it's just tacky or if it's downright offensive. I mean, there's a spectrum, naturally.
Yeah, and that's a really difficult question to answer. Like, how do you draw the line between appropriation and appreciation? Because I do believe in people experiencing different cultures, but at the same time, sometimes people do it ignorantly or disrespectfully. And then there's also a historical context too, like you said with corsets, because they come from Europe. I guess people aren't as concerned about appropriation because there hasn't been that kind of history. But if you were to wear maybe a kimono or something else, then you would want to do it respectfully because, again, like history and colonization, and it has certain cultural implications. And again, your standards of what is appropriate changes over time with society. Like, something you're doing now seems fine. 10 years in the future, you're like, I can't believe I did that. But yeah, I guess this is not like a question where you can like draw like a specific line, like this is okay and this is not. I guess you just kind of have to educate yourself and feel it out and then be open to the fact that you might make a mistake, I guess. But yeah, I guess there's no good answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only thing that's really okay is like being open to feedback and evolving. Like that's like because I mean it's just sort of inevitable, even like with the best intentions. I think of my dad being like, I love gay people. Like they're designers, they're so funny, they wear great clothes, and it's like, all right, that is a very specific like 90s Miami like type of person, very white monolith of what a gay person is. Love the energy, love the vibe, but now, and that was, you know, 15 years ago, that's like really reducing a whole community to one stereotype. But like back then, that was woke. Like that was woke back then to have that stance. So, you know, you just sort of like take it in stride.
Yeah, and we've been talking about, the intersection between fashion and politics. So I wanted to transition a little bit to fashion and music because you make a lot of videos about the intersection of music and fashion. And I was curious, like, do you think those two things are intertwined to the extent you can't separate them? Like, you can't have a musical movement or genre without an accompanying fashion style?
I think when music becomes like popular, when a musician becomes popular, then people start to idolize them, they start to relate to them, and then they start to dress like them. It's sort of this ever sort of evolving thing. I suppose you can just make music stand alone and produce a track from your bedroom anonymously and not perform and not show any sort of image or anything. And even that is sort of like a statement and a vibe. I think of like the band Sleep Token that don't show their face, and even that is a whole like kind of aesthetic or a whole, I mean, it says a whole thing about who they are, even in that lack of statement. Or, I think of like grunge was that was supposed to be a lack of fashion. The whole point was they were like, let's wear dresses with flannels and Doc Martens and jeans over it because we don't care about fashion. We're cute, like whatever. And it's all thrifted because we're broke punks and we don't have like anything to pay for this. And then, a few years later after Nirvana and when grunge became popular, then Delia's and Sears were selling flannels and acid wash jeans. And acid wash jeans were just jeans that were bleached because of utility. Like they just ended up getting stained and stuff like that. So I think I guess, unless you truly do your due diligence in creating music in a vacuum, and I mean, I'm thinking back in like Beethoven's age, I guess a lot of people wouldn't have known what he looks like. So in that case, I don't know if the music went with the fashion, but then you could argue the music was for dancing and for listening. So then what was the dance back then? The dresses are going to reflect what the dances were back then because the dresses are going to want to really show what the dances were. So if they were tight little foxtrot dances, they were probably going to be little hobble skirts. If they were flapper Charleston dances, it's going to be short. So like even in that case where the general population wouldn't know what the musician looked like, I don't think you can separate movement and dance from music for sure. And with dance comes practical utility. Kind of like when my friends are like, you can make politics out of everything. It's like, I could probably make a connection from, a little invisible string. That might be the sociology in me. I can just sort of find a connection with anything. But I suppose there is an argument to be made. But I don't know how strong. I think it just depends. If you're someone, I think nowadays with like the Sabrina Carpenter, the Zara Larsson, the Tate McRae, like these pop girls have a very clear image. And even like when I was growing up, I mean, Britney Spears had a very clear image versus Avril Lavigne, whether it's intentional or not, like Nirvana, whereas like that was just, they were trying to do an absence of fashion. In the end, it totally became fashion. I mean, everyone got the Kurt Cobain haircut. It totally ended up doing that, even though their whole statement was, fuck that, we don't like that stuff. Oh, so, I'm sorry. I don't know.
You're good. Yeah, that was interesting what you said. Like, if someone becomes popular enough, then we think they're cool and then we want to dress like them. Even though they're not trying to make a fashion statement, they might just be existing. And in my head, I always connected like, okay, a certain music genre resonates with a certain type of people because they might have similar values or they might have grown up in a certain environment where they're used to that sound. And then that's kind of culture also has a style associated with it. So then that music genre and that style become linked. And then someone else who's not part of that culture will listen to the music, or they like the fashion and they'll just take on the fashion without understanding the whole culture behind it. So in that scenario, when I guess there's not like a famous like person at the root of it, there's not like a figurehead, do you think that you can appreciate a fashion movement without appreciating the full subculture around it?
Yeah, I just don't know how well you can appreciate it. Like, you can say, oh, I like that, but like not super know that much about it. And with anything, the more you learn about it, the more like the tip of the iceberg and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, you could like, Nirvana and Pearl Jam and have kind of this surface level appreciation for grunge music, but not super understand everything that surrounds grunge. Or, I mean, I love reggaeton and everything, but I mean, my Spanish ain't that good. Like, I don't know that much Spanish. So clearly I'm not appreciating the music that well if I'm not even getting the lyrics, but I like the energy, the vibe, the dancing, all of that. So yeah, it's like, yes, you can definitely appreciate it, but your depth of appreciation is going to be so shallow. It's like anyone can enjoy dessert, but when you're a baker and when you watch a lot of cooking shows and the Great British Bake Off and you have all that knowledge of like what goes into making a croissant and oh my God, it takes like 12 hours, I've done it. Then when you go to a place with a bomb croissant, you're like, oh my God, I appreciate this so much more because I know how hard it is to make a croissant. It's impossible. So knowledge helps fuel depth of appreciation, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wanted to ask you, how has your music taste informed your style over the years?
Similar to kind of like the music festival things, I think music has given me an outlet to um, try on characters like within relatability. I was actually reflecting on this earlier, and I almost strictly listen to sort of people who write and sing their own songs. I don't really do artists who are maybe vocalists but have other people write their songs, or um, I know K-pop is really big, and that's like a very manufactured sort of music. And what I love about music is that like Paul McCartney, a person who grew up in public housing in Liverpool after World War II, can write a song in 1964, and me in 2026 can cry because how much did I relate to it? Like that's so cool. And when I was a kid, I remember like listening to early Maroon 5 or Jason Mraz. Don't judge. Jason Mraz has a bomb discography. Ignore the fedora. And I just remember being like these love songs, thinking like, I can't believe like a boy would write something so sweet, because like I'm in middle school and all boys are being horrible. So I'm just like, I can't believe men are able to be this tender and vulnerable. And it's just like, I love that about people who write and perform their own songs, because I feel like I'm getting the real them, even though, parasocialism, it's always going to be a wall up. It's always going to be filtered and whatever. But that is what fuels my fandom, is that sort of relatability. And so thinking of, I mean, I said I love the 60s. I grew up loving the Beatles. And so like I grew up loving like Patty Boyd and Jane Astor and just Yoko Ono, all of them, and loving the 60s. And this was also, boho, peak boho time for the early years of, not early years, obviously, though he was been around for a while, but that sort of 2010s iteration of boho. And then later in middle school, listening to the Arctic Monkeys and the Strokes and the Black Keys, and Elliott Smith, which is like, wow, are you even trying to be happy? Like, whatever. Why are you listening to Elliott Smith at 12 years old? But that obviously influenced my style, and I was wearing like black eyeliner a little bit more, and I was still sort of twee boho, but I was getting more into that style. And then, Tumblr and Skins getting more into Lana Del Rey. And then, I mean, listen, once I found Lana Del Rey, people called me Lana Del Dion or Lana Del Ranck after high school. Like people were convinced that I looked like her. I did the big eyeliner. My hair was that kind of like brassier, orangier brown that she had during the Born to Die era. I was like, I want to be her so badly. I just have like, I will never forget like when I discovered her, like the first time I watched the Ride music video, and it was like a blackout moment. And yeah, completely like that I think about that moment a lot, is like that is a really defining point of like there was the before I watched that music video, Dion, and there was the after. And like so stark. Like within those, whatever, is it like 13 minutes long? With it, like I transformed, and like a flip switched so hardcore. She is similar to like an Effie Stoneham, where that Lana Del Rey character of like the tortured poet, and it gave me some confidence and gave me a character to sort of hide behind. And which, I mean, I know sounds sad, but it did end up giving me friends that I can then show my real self to. So it works out sort of in the end, even though it's kind of like, oh man, I had to have all this armor. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, she's a big one. I loved country music 10 years ago before it got really, really bad. And I went to college in North Carolina, so listening to country music, I wore a lot more cowgirl boots, and this was during my preppy phase. So yeah, definitely my music sort of entwines. And then whenever I go to a concert, I like to dress up like the artist or like the theme. So I went to see Brett Michaels with Poison. I love 80s rock. I teased my hair. I wore a dark glittery smoky eye. I had my jean jacket on, leather, like Doc Martens. I told you about the music festival. Obviously, I dressed up for the Eras tour. When I went to see Pitbull, I did my whole Miami Judge. When I went to see Lil Wayne, I did like total club wear. I mean, it's fun. Like it makes it part of the event. It makes it feel more special. So even on like a micro scale of just going to a concert, will influence how I dress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's similar to like, you travel to experience different cultures, but you can also experience different cultures just by going to different concerts where people are dressed differently and you meet different people from who've grown up in different areas. And there's cultures built around music too, and it gives you kind of the same mind-opening experience that traveling does, which is interesting. Not many people, I guess, talk about it or think about it like that. So a common recurring, I guess, series on your channel that you do is where you explain a whole vibe and aesthetic centered around different albums. Like I think recently you did one about Speak Now, you've done one about Born to Die, which are like two of my favorite albums. But yeah, it's so interesting to me how, especially like for example, Born to Die, Lana Del Rey is has created such a distinct look, like that really girly like 60s, but then like some Americana and like, when you think of, you can very easily create a mood board because she has a very distinct visual
Yeah.
aesthetic. And I was curious, do you think an album like Born to Die, or any album for that matter, would have as strong of a resonance if it was just the music itself and didn't have that strong visual identity?
Luckily for an album or like an artist like Lana Del Rey, who is very diary, very personal in terms of how she writes. And I mean, she even admits like the sort of Born to Die Paradise, May Jailer, Lizzie Grant was characters. I mean, like I feel like that's probably where I learned it from. I mean, she is like the queen of putting on a character for a little while, good and bad, whatever it is. And I think now, like, again, we are talking about like Beethoven. I guess that's not the visual era, so that music was distributed or played. But everything is so visual now, and Lana Del Rey hit with Instagram and Tumblr and Pinterest and Polyvore. I don't know, that creates so much interest, and I think now the image really does help. I mean, I feel like executives have been saying that for a while, but especially with, going into television, album covers, I guess anything post radio, really. Once the television got into play, visuals became a much bigger deal in terms of musicians. And, in terms of looks, honestly.
When do you think music stopped being just about the music and also about visuals? Do you think it was in the 21st century social media era, or do you think it was back in the 80s with the MTV and music videos?
I guess it would start like a post when the television came out, because now you see instead of hearing them on a radio show, these musicians, you see them on Johnny Carson, on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that's obviously going to impact. I mean, talk about freaking Elvis. He couldn't be filmed from the waist down because of everything that was going on. Talk about a visual. And even just his aura. I mean, he was from the waist up. He was still pouring out sex. Same with Jim Morrison. He had to hold back so much when he was on those shows because he's just like, sex is just pouring out of him. Everyone talks about Paul McCartney being the cute Beatle, but the fact that, and I mean, I guess you could make an argument for the other guys, but I'm always going to be a Paul girl. But that certainly is going to help their image. The fact that they're four arguably good-looking lads, and they're cheeky, and they're cute, and they're funny. And then you go into One Direction, which is basically the same thing. So I guess I would argue once the television came around, and you no longer just listen to radio on the gramophone or the record player or the radio, you watch musicians play, then naturally, because we're superficial beings, if it's one thing if they have equal talent, but if they have equal talent and one's good looking, well, then obviously we're going to go with the one that's better looking.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's my answer. But I think it just keeps cycling, getting worse and worse as we get more visual. And now we have visuals everywhere. We have advertisements, we have phones, we have everything. So I think it's snowballed way more than, the Elvis era or the Frank Sinatra era. But I mean, even part of Frank Sinatra's whole thing and the reason why he won out over a lot of other singers who are also really wonderful, like Dion and the Belmonts and other artists like that, old Blue Eyes. I mean, he had that beautiful voice, and he was suave with Dean Martin. Anyone can have a beautiful voice, a beautiful crooning voice. Not everyone can have that beautiful crooning voice and look like Dean Martin. So it gives you an edge as a result. And even like circling back to Nirvana, they not only sounded, they didn't just walk the walk, they talked the talk. Like they sounded like it, and they looked grungy. They had this hair, they wore dresses and eyeliner and whatever, which sold their music even more because you could visually look at them and know that they're not a poser or believe they're not a poser. Mm-hmm. People can manufacture that look as well and do, but I think people can also see right through that.
Yeah, and the industry has changed as a whole. Like before visuals, it was just about the music. Now, if you want to be successful as a musician, you need that strong brand identity. It's just not going to stick. It's such an interesting correlation that I just noticed when you were talking, like with the musicians you mentioned. I think Elvis had his debut on like the Milton Berle show, I think, if my memory serves me correctly. But again, like, would he be as popular if he wasn't doing those crazy dances? He had like the slicked black hair, the blue eyes, and then he was doing these crazy dance moves. It's not just about the music. And then the Beatles, again, they were on Ed Sullivan, which is what helped them blow up, especially internationally. And then Nirvana, again, the reason they went viral or famous was because their music video went viral on MTV, and then that led to the popularity of the album. So now that I think of it, it's the visual that precedes the music when it comes to popularity. People have to buy into the look in addition to the music.
You gotta think it's interesting. I mean, even if you're meeting a person, you see them typically before you get to know them personally, and music is very, very personal in that way. I don't know when it was. I guess you can still make it just about the music, making a conscious effort, but I think even subconsciously you're going to take into account what visuals the music like connotates in your head. And yeah, I think there's sort of a difference between being a fabulous musician and being a star. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying Paul McCartney has the best voice in the world. Cosmic things that happen that creates this, and there are people, I believe, that like no matter what the circumstance, you could not stop that freight train from becoming a star. Paul McCartney grew up in public housing, like didn't have any money, grew up so poor, from Liverpool, a coal mining town, post World War II. Britain was beat up, finds this other freaking bad influence who was a single mom, who was an alcoholic abuser, and they become the biggest stars in the world. It doesn't matter what their circumstance was going to be. There was no stopping that cosmic freight train. Diana Ross grew up in the projects, in the pre-civil rights era as a black woman. Baby, there's no stopping that freight train. She was a star. She was always going to be a star. Didn't matter the circumstance you're going to put her in. Elvis, from Nowheresville, Tennessee. You don't got a voice like that and a face like that. It doesn't matter if he grew up in a spider hole, bitch. He was going to become a star. And part of it is the look, naturally. But, like, I don't know. It's the voice and the look and and luck and cosmic and culture. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Just banking on just the music. Again, if your album cover is black and you never show your face and whatever, and even that kind of gives a visual, I think it's hard, and there's a difference between a fabulous musician. There's hundreds of thousands of fabulous musicians, of course, millions of fabulous musicians. Stars, people who it didn't matter what the circumstance was going to be. They were Ray Charles, black, blind, grew up. I've been to Ray Charles' childhood home. I saw the water pump. Grew up in Nowheresville, Florida, a one-stoplight town. Baby, there's no stopping that freight train. That was coming. That was coming because you can't, Hairspray, you can't stop the beat. You can't stop an ocean when it waves onto the sea. Like, you just can't, babe. Like, stars are stars. I think there is some cosmic stuff to that.
Mm-hmm. So when you say cosmic element, you mean like there's some inherent X factor that they have within them, or do you think that it's just a matter of luck and being at the right place at the right time?
I do think it's luck, and I mean it just is, because again, there's millions of fabulous musicians and there's millions of people who work hard, and it's like, oh, to make it in this industry you have to work hard. Really? You don't think the incredible saxophonist that's playing in Grand Central Station doesn't work hard? It's not about talent. It's not about working hard. It's about connections and the look and the luck, being heard by the right people. That's why it's like it's cosmic, because it's one in a bazillion. There's plenty of hot people. There's plenty of talented people. There's plenty of rich people. There's plenty of nice people. How do you get all of that? There's plenty of connected people. How do you get all of that to culminate into it's just so, there's that kind of level of cosmic energy. And on the other hand, a star who I love, naturally, Taylor Swift, she had white, blonde, pretty, rich parents. And her parents, when she was 13, could afford to move her ass to Nashville and take her to record companies. You think Diana Ross's mom could do that? You think Paul McCartney's dad could do that? And I'm not saying Taylor Swift doesn't work hard. Of course, she's the hardest working person in the music industry. Everyone says that. But she had a lot of steps also on the way. Someone like Michael Jackson or Britney Spears were shoved into it at 2 years old. Of course they're talented. Of course we think they have star power, and they are stars. I'm not saying they're not stars at all, of course. But would have Michael Jackson or Britney Spears been who they are by choice? Taylor Swift, it was a conscious choice. The other musicians, I mean, it was a conscious choice, but, they were in the Mickey Mouse Club. They were 2 years old, 3 years old on the Ed Sullivan Show, on all these shows, forced in by their parents. And it's like, of course they're stars. Of course they're talented. Of course they're wonderful. But, like, you kind of can't help but think, was this their choice? Could they have been a nice, one of the other millions of hot, attractive, talented people who just aren't stars? Because there's millions of them. So that's why it's cosmic. I mean, you either have to have the parents that put you into it, you have to have the support that puts you into, I think Rebecca Black, not that she's necessarily a star, but her parents got her that Friday music video, and now she's DJing. I think she's even going to Coachella and opens up for Trixie Mattel. I mean, she's lucky. She's got the connections. She's got the support. She's got influencer friends in LA who play at their parties and that kind of thing. So you can manufacture it, you can buy it, there's so much that goes into it, but I think just toss music into the ether and expect to get a #1 hit. It's like, all right. I mean, that is a one in a gazillion, and you could probably do some more things to up your chances. Even though I guess that sounds shallow or whatever, but that's what I mean about those artists who grew up in the projects or in public housing and become the biggest, richest superstars of all time. It's like, that's cosmic. Like, that's just, like I said, there's no stop. There was never going to stop that freight train with people like Diana Ross, Paul McCartney, Ray Charles. It was like, baby, don't look at the circumstances they grew up in and look who they are now. There's no stopping that, which I just think is so cool and admirable. And they did it when they were adults rather than being forced to it by a stage parent as a young child, which I think just creates a different relationship with your art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's so true. You can't exactly pinpoint what can make someone a star, because yes, they have the talent and the good look and the privilege, but there is just a huge luck element, like you said. And whenever I look at someone who's really successful, really famous, really good at what they do, and I'm analyzing, like, why did they get so famous? Yes, they're attractive and they have the talent and they have the connections and everything, but so do a lot of other people. And you see a star, you think they're so unique. And they seem unique because there's no one else in the industry like them. But, like, for example, for every, like Kurt Cobain just resonated with a generation. But I'm sure there were, like, hundreds of really angsty guys in the 90s who played guitar, who made angry music. I'm sure there were, like, quite a few guys just like him. But, it just didn't click, I guess. And there's so many talented people. And no one is, like, truly unique. Like, for every star, there's quite a few people like them in the industry that just didn't hit it big.
Yeah, I mean, I think even, like, in the Elvis documentaries, they kind of mentioned these kind of other rock and rollers or even black musicians who were singing the blues music, but when it was packaged up in the Elvis look, it was very palatable. So, I mean, yeah, it's culture, it's circumstance. When black culture is favorable, black music is favorable. When, conservative Americana culture is favorable, then country music is more favorable. I mean, things, it kind of impacts itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Such a complicated thing. Like, you can't really predict these things. So, you know, there's just so many variables.
That's what I love about like sociology. It's like all connected. Even like you seem like a conspiracy theorist, but it's like it's all so like so dictates a culture. I love how music can just like totally impact, you know, all these teenagers getting the bowl cut mop top head because of the Beatles and then because of Justin Bieber. It's like, oh, it's so cool to see.
Yeah, yeah, it is so interesting. And that's one of the reasons I love analyzing this kind of thing too as well. Because it's like there's a million things that all like culminate to create this like really unique concoction. And then that in itself also evolves over time. And, you know, just the way human nature plays out is just so interesting. But yeah, one thing I want to ask you about is so, like I said, I found your channel through your grunge video because I'm a diehard Nirvana fan, and so it just came up in my like algorithm. And in the title you said like, yes, I can name 5 Nirvana songs. And I thought that was so funny because it's like people wear Nirvana shirts all the time, regardless of whether or not they listen to it. Like the Nirvana shirt has just become a separate thing in and of itself. It's separate from the band. And I wanted to ask about this kind of name 5 songs phenomenon. Like you see someone wear band merch, and then someone feels a need to like get you to prove that you're legitimate. Otherwise, you're a poser. And I was curious, like, why do you think people wear merch that they're not actually affiliated with that culture? And why do you think it's like such a social faux pas to be a poser?
Yeah. Being a poser, I think, is like, girl, we're all posers at one time. Like, we're all like, it's just so like we opened this conversation with me saying I was going to tell people my name was Effie. Like, what are we talking about? Obviously, like you try on things. That's part of adolescence. And like I mean, I don't super get wearing merch of bands that you don't know of. I will be honest, I don't super, as I'm wearing Taylor Swift merch and Boston Calling sweatpants, but like I love my music merch. I mean, it's a connection for me. Like I love wearing my music merch because it reminds me of, you know, my favorite artist or the festival I went to. I think the whole like name 5 songs things is more common in like what people perceive as niche music, which I think is funny. Mostly like rock or pop punk or grunge, that kind of screamo, all of that. They're like, I think because they perceive it as niche, they are on the defense because of like who is in the in crowd or not. And it's like, so Nirvana was on MTV. So I don't know what you're thinking. Like, what are we talking about? Like here, you know, like, so Linkin Park had the #1 song in the country. Green Day was one of the biggest bands in the world. I think it's sort of like, y'all need to get a little bit real. Like, I think with some of those, especially like rock, grunge, pop punk, those sort of niches, because I don't know if it happens as much in like, I mean, I don't really see it that much in like a pop subculture, or I mean, I guess maybe during the Eras tour, people are like, oh, you know, posers are going, influencers are going because they're being sent by bands. But or you know, in the rap scene, I don't know if it's like if you wear like an NWA shirt, which I guess people do. My fiance has a Death Row Records shirt. I'm like, do you know what Death Row Records is? He's like, no. I'm like, fierce. But yeah, I think it's interesting when people wear merch that's not necessarily who they are. But what I was saying is that I guess maybe these more like masculine subcultures, these masculine so-called niche subcultures, like these bands like Linkin Park and these screamo bands, emo bands, metal bands, I think they resonate with like a very certain archetype. And also other people, like I literally like saw All Time Low last summer. I enjoy like screamo and like that kind of music as well, and metal. And I don't look it, but I think those people perceive themselves as like these outliers and maybe be like a little insecure. Maybe they're being bullied because they're emo. And so like when they're crying, listening to like a Linkin Park song in their room, and then someone's just like, oh, I love that like #1 hit. It's like, bro, you don't even know how deep it gets. So, and I think just like, because there tend to be more masculine subcultures, then it becomes that like defensive, well, name 5 songs. Whereas like, I don't know if that's in like necessarily like a girly subculture, like pop music or something, or singer songwriter. It's like, if you like a couple of songs by Ingrid Michaelson, I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, love that.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up actually because I do think there's a gendered aspect to it. Like again, that name five songs thing, it applies most to like alternative and underground subcultures and then male things because I think with underground things, when you're in an alternative subculture, you kind of get into that because you feel like you don't fit in with the mainstream. So it's like now you found this place where you do fit in. And then now you have these people trying to cheapen it by bringing their mainstreamness into your precious little alternative group. Especially when you're young, you build your identity around it. It makes you feel unique. So when everyone claims to be part of this thing, it makes you feel less unique. But then there's also like the gender aspect of it because culturally like things that men are into are considered like more serious or like more higher art than the things women are into. So it's like if there's like a genre or band that's popular with men and there's a woman who claims to be into it, I wonder if they feel like a woman being into it kind of cheapens it or delegitimizes it because there's this like, oh, if a woman likes it, it's not serious. So it's like to prove that you're not like the other women, you have to prove that you're serious. Otherwise, we don't accept you in this subculture. So yeah, I wonder if that has to do with it.
Yeah, or I guess maybe it's just like if I relate to this song as a teenage boy, how could you possibly relate to this song as a teenage girl? Like that, I think it's like, or, and maybe it sort of threatens, like, wait, I feel vulnerable and I relate to this song. And if you do, then you kind of know how I feel. And I don't like that. I
Hmm.
wonder if like that's also part of it, especially with those more like emo-y bands that are quite angry and suicidal and like just dark and whatever, these nirvanas which were such an outlet for like a lot of people, angry people and men and women and others and whatever. But I think it might be like, oh wait, no, a popular girl also relates to this song, that wait, now they know how I like my deepest darkest feelings kind of thing. And I will backtrack a little bit because I've been a Taylor Swift fan since 2006, before her album ever came out. I remember seeing on the streaming service, like the OG, it was called Rhapsody, and it said Hot New Country, and it was Tim McGraw and Teardrops on My Guitar. And I listened to it in my friend's Dell computer in her kitchen and changed my life, naturally. Life changing. Another kind of before and after flip a switch moment. And I do remember when Love Story, the music video, would go on CMT on the top 10 music videos in the morning. And then slowly that hopped over to MTV and VH1. And then slowly that went to like Billboard and stuff. And then people going to like the Fearless tour or Speak Now and being like, but you guys made fun of me for liking this country artist in like sixth grade, but now it's ninth grade and she's the biggest artist in the world at the time. And me kind of getting the hump about that, getting a little like defensive. And, when I see influencers who went to the Eras tour or people who I know went to the Eras tour who like aren't Taylor Swift fans and aren't that big, I'm like, I get a little defensive because I know how diehard my fellow Swifties are, and obviously like there's such a barrier with like Ticketmaster and everything to getting into the tour that I'm like, I know a lot of people who are watching a grainy live stream crying while your ass was on TikTok like editing a video while Taylor Swift is on the stage. So I think I think it can go both ways, but I think specifically the name five songs thing is very attached to like subcultures. I think of Tumblr and I think of that sort of era. But I do think there's an aspect of like, again, I'm like, wait, I loved Taylor Swift when she was country and no one liked her. And you guys thought it was weird. I did like a whole we had to attach a song to the book Tangerine in the sixth grade for a book report. And I chose Tied Together with a Smile by Taylor Swift. Like that, I'm OG. Like I'm so in the trenches. And I got an A on that project, period. And so then when like it gets popular and when you feel like people aren't fully appreciating the art, kind of back to cultural appropriation or appreciation, when it's like, wait, you only know her hits, you don't know like I'd Lie, the unreleased track from her debut era, like you're a fake fan. I think you can get a little bit defensive of that because there's a vulnerability of like, I love Taylor Swift and I cry in my bed listening to her songs, and then you're sitting here just like here for the Instagram or here for the clout, and that is like you're not appreciating something that is so sacred and important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I think that's kind of it. If music is sacred to people, it really is, especially like when it comes to lyricism, feelings, it's really, it's that serious. It is so that serious. And so I think when people perceive that the seriousness is being undermined, when people talk about Taylor Swift and cheapen her and reduce her songwriting, I have to just say, like, it's not that deep. You know in your heart what is the truth, and you just need to move on. Like, you just gotta, like, but it's because it's just like, no, you can't diss my sister, my therapist, my loved one, my fucking number one. It's like that. I mean, the Beatles is another one. And, I'm sure as a Nirvana fan, they actually weren't that good. They're only famous because Kurt Cobain died and disbanded, and that kind of what boosted them up. Like, I'm sure you get, like, those things. And you're like, I will snap your head if you say one more thing about that. And then you just have to be like, okay, bro. But it's because music is that serious to people. I mean, it's like, it's sacred. It's like, it's your religion. It's your therapist. It's like what holds you together during your darkest times. Like, it is that serious. So I can understand when people get defensive over it, because I sure as hell do.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, it is like your safe space. And if someone comes and invades your safe space when they aren't of the same understanding as you are, like, it's like, why are you contaminating my precious little area? And it's, yeah, like when you hear someone talk about the music you love like that, you just have to be like, you're like, you know what, they don't get it. They just don't get it. Like, they're,
yeah, because it's just like, how many times can I have this fight? Like, I've been a Taylor Swift fan for 20 years. How many more times are we going to be having this same fight? It's like, save your blood pressure, save the wrinkles, save the stress. Like, it's not, you just gotta be like, okay, but it's, then you like think about it, or like when I see a TikTok, it's like, but it's because, like, you don't mess with the people like I love, and that's who I love. Or even at concerts, like when people have bad vibes at concerts, it's like, we all paid to be here. We're so excited to be here. Some of us saved up, some of us traveled, and you're messing it up because you're an asshole. Like, it's so violating, because it's like being an asshole in church. It's like, bro, we are here for pure good vibes, and you are ruining it with douchery. And it's like, it's just like an extra twist of the knife because again, music is just so important to people, and people travel and they spend all this money, and they dress up and they plan their outfits and they get together with all the friends. And so then when someone just ruins that concert experience or whatever, it's just like an extra burn.
Yeah, music is so personal. Like, yeah, it's so true. And now would be a good time to transition into talking about Taylor Swift, because I have a whole like section of questions here.
Lovely.
But yeah, so you said you've been a Taylor Swift fan like from the beginning, like from her debut album when she wasn't even very popular. Like, my understanding is her breakout hit was "You Belong with Me," right? Like, that was what made her really famous. But you were a fan before that, so I was curious. How did it feel like when this niche little country artist that you like suddenly became world famous? Were you happy for her? Or did you feel like kind of you were losing her?
Oh, I was so happy for her. It was like watching my best friend or my sister. I mean, I would wake up early, and one of the reasons how I got into country music is through Taylor Swift. I would watch CMT top 20 music videos for the sole purpose of hopefully maybe catching her music video. But as a result, I kind of caught a couple tunes that I really liked, and it exposed me into that music. And oh, I love Story. Again, that was sort of the like inkling where she got big in the country world, and then You Belong with Me was just another level. I got like chills thinking about it. It was like watching a family member, honestly. I'm so parasocial, but I've just always been so happy for her success. And even I feel like the only time where I was afraid that I was losing her was during, and before Taylor Swift fans come after me, I love these eras so much, but during the Reputation and Lover era, when she got really poppy, like I guess from 1989 to Lover, when she got really poppy, because again, I found her when she was country, and what I loved, I mean, I just remember listening to her two singles and just being like, how did someone know how I felt? Like, how did someone get this? This is so crazy. How did someone open my diary and put it to words? It was just, insane. When she got poppy, I'm like, am I losing that person? Am I losing the girl with the guitar, the girl with the piano? Because when we talked about this in the beginning, I love singer-songwriter. I love when the person sings and writes their own songs. And she's always done that, granted, but I was so afraid she was just going in a very different direction. And I almost had like a wall up with Reputation and Lover for a little bit, because I was like, have I lost her? Like, is she just full on like pop, electronic, whatever, no real instruments, no acoustics, whatever. And then when Folklore came out, it really allowed me to like be like, my girl is back. I cried when that album came out. And when Betty came out, or when I first heard the song Betty at like midnight or whatever, I remember being like, old Taylor is back. Like, she can still write a damn good country song with a guitar, a harmonica, and just plain old. And so when I got that confirmation that my girl's still there, oh my God, the Lover and the Reputation album, I was allowed to sort of like fully relax into it, because I knew that I didn't lose her for good. So now I can enjoy I love Showgirl. Now I can enjoy it because I know I didn't lose my girl. I know I didn't lose her. So that really didn't have anything to do with the culture. It was more the music shift, where I was like, is the sole crux of why I love this person, is that disappearing? And it didn't. So then I'm like, oh man, I love everything, whatever. Perfect. Love it. And even that being said, I mean, Me came out on my 23rd birthday, so no one can ever say anything about that song to me. Like, I will defend that song with my life. I don't care. And Reputation, I was a spin class instructor at the time, and I did a whole spin class to the Reputation album. So even I'm saying like I had a wall up, I'm still a super fan. So I still listen to the album 1,000 times, but maybe not like 2,000 times.
It was interesting what you said, that once you felt like you haven't lost her, then you were truly able to appreciate her more pop moments. And it's kind of the inverse of what we just talked about, where you have your niche subculture. You don't want someone coming in who doesn't understand, but similarly, you also don't want your beloved artist to leave the subculture and go do something else as well. Like, you kind of want them to do that same thing that you fell in love with initially. You want them to have that initial like spark that was always there.
Lana Del Rey is definitely one of them. That like, Born to Die and Paradise, that era was just sonically, to this day, I have never heard production and music like that. The combination of diary songwriting with storytelling songwriting with weird, I mean, you can dance to the Paradise and Born to Die album, and you can't say that about her other albums. And to me, she just never got that spark back. And I just like Ultraviolence, I tried to force myself, and then Honeymoon I tried, and it's just like the more sort of sad Joni Mitchell on a piano, just her fluttering little voice she got, and the less sort of production she did, the more I was like, I guess I lost her. Because what I loved about that album is I've never heard anything like Born to Die or Paradise, but I've heard stuff like Lust for Life. I mean, baby, like Joan Baez and Joni Mitchell did that 40 years ago. Like, and they can sing live. Like, I love Lana Del Rey, but like that's just the facts. And that was another thing that made me lose her, is that I saw Lana Del Rey live. And I mean, seeing an artist live will make or break an experience. And it unfortunately really broke the experience. It was so disappointing.
How did it change your perception?
Because, baby, when she performed on Saturday Night Live in 2012, I fought for her. I defended her with my life. I got roasted. I was there. And then seeing her, and just like the vocals were just not there. And it was so like, oh, it's auto-tune and Melodyne. Oh, and like, again, my thing is like, I love people who sing and write and play their own songs. That's what I look for in an artist. And so when vocally they're not up to snuff, when they need a lot more, like, I feel apathetic about Charlie XCX, but like that auto-tune thing isn't for me. I know that's her style. I know it's a stylistic style. Same with like Grimes. I know it's a total vibe. It's not, my whole thing is I'm trying to get as personal to this artist as I can. Um, and so I was just like, oh, it was just kind of a low energy. The vocals weren't there. And it really just like, I could just never listen to her music the same. Cause I feel like the wizard, pulled back the curtain in the Wizard of Oz. I was like, oh no, the wizard's not real. So, and, people advance vocally but a big reason is just she never got sonically that same vibe as Born to Die in Paradise. I mean, A&W kind of has that, but I have to listen to the first half about her being raped. So like I don't really want that. And then it's like Jimmy Cocoa Puff. I'm like, I'm not feeling sexy about like right after talking about being sexually assaulted. It's like, like let's go back to like I don't know, Off to the Races. Like I can shake ass to that. Like, yeah. So sometimes an artist just sort of they do leave you, and then other people would argue she's the same Lana Del Rey that she's always been. She has that songwriting, that fluttery voice. I think for me, it was sonically the production that attracted to her in the first place. And so when that production left after the Paradise album, unfortunately, so did I. Mm-hmm. But that's because I guess I just listened to her for a sonic reason, whereas Taylor Swift, I listened to her for a lyric reason. So I guess I'm just more open to sonically evolving, I guess.
Yeah, I've always loved Lana Del Rey's music and wanted to see her live, but now maybe I shouldn't.
I mean, people improve, and I think also like she's made for a cabaret, like an intimate setting, and when you put someone like that in like an amphitheater or stadium style setting, like I feel like it's harder to really like listen to crooner music. Like Frank Sinatra wasn't made for a stadium. He was made for a cabaret kind of style, and she has that kind of music. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Born to Die Paradise Edition is truly it, if I had to name two albums that changed my life, it would have been Red and Born to Die Born to Die Paradise Edition. I mean, that album completely changed me on a chemical, biological, molecular level. I've changed from that album, and it will always be important to me, and like that will never ever change. But yeah, it's like, it sucks when that, but I think she'll still, like, I think she has improved in terms of vocals from what I've heard. And like, I mean, if you love an artist, you love an artist. I mean, it just, yeah, I never want my experience to like dwindle somebody else's, but it was just like, once it happens, even if it was just a bad day, you can never unhear it. Even, some people have bad days. Like, even if it was just a bad day, it's like, oh, but now I know, and I can never go back, which just stinks. So that's what sucks about live performance. And you get one shot, you don't get the re-record. I try not to let other people judge based on my one experience. However, when it's your only experience, you can't unsee it, but you haven't heard it. So you're still like a clean slate. You're still untouched. So you don't know. So don't let me, see your favorite artist. I mean, oh my God, there's nothing better in the world. Yeah. Don't let me impact that.
You really like Lana Del Rey's music, but you haven't been resonating with her later stuff as much. But Taylor Swift, from the start up until now, you've been a fan, and you haven't seemed to. I mean, maybe you stepped away a little bit during the Reputation Lover era, but then you came back. So I'm curious, what about Taylor Swift? Because also I'm sure when you discovered her music, you were probably a kid, and like. You were probably very different than you are now. I mean, you've grown into an adult. You have changed as a person in like 20 years, but still the music resonates. So I'm curious, why does it stand the test of time?
I think part of it is like she's such an older sister figure to me. Like I don't have an older sister, and she's very girly in sort of a traditional sense in a lot of her imagery and the way she uses it. And like, she makes it okay to be cringe and have a crush and like stay up all night because you are so giddy about a date or whatever. Whereas like, a lot of artists have a too cool for school persona, which is also fun. I mean, again, we just talked about Lana Del Rey. That's a total opposite. And I love that sort of armor. But for me, it was always like Taylor Swift just allowed me to, like, in the darkest night in my bed, really be like my true feelings, true vulnerability without judgment. She's never been too cool for school. She's never been any of that. And she's 7 years older than me. So that also really put her in a good position for a big sister figure for me. So, you know, when I was 9, she was 16. And obviously when you're a 9 and 10-year-old, like 16-year-olds are the coolest people on the planet. And then, you know, when I'm 21, she's 28, and I'm like so lost in college, and it's the Reputation album. And man, I had a falling out with my friend, and right before we had a talk, I played that You Belong With Me music video. It like supercharged me. I probably went a little bit too hard on that person in retrospect. I was really harsh, but like, I've been an unwavering Taylor Swift fan always, even when maybe I didn't, understand the sonic production of where she was going. And of course, again, now I love those 2 albums. It was more so I was just like, I just had like a wall up. It's like, I love you, but I have a wall up. And now I don't. But I think it's just, she's always sort of 5 years ahead of me. So whatever I'm going through, even if I don't resonate with it now, it can come back. I mean, when I was 19, I feel like I listened to Teardrops on my guitar for the first time. And I had heard that song, like, this sounds like an exaggeration, but I'm kind of a psycho, easily 1,000 times, because I listen to things on repeat. Like, I'm a little bit whatever about that stuff. And, you know, I went through my first real honest to goodness heartbreak, and it was like, oh, he's the reason for the teardrops on my guitar. I was like, oh. And that's, sometimes it hits you like a freight train. I listened to so many times, but then you experience it and there's a totally new perspective. And she's got a song for everything, truly, when you look into her discography. And when experiences happen to you, even if you listen to something 1,000 times or whatever, you can still get something new about it as you evolve and grow. So it's like, you know, with the Speak Now era, Never Grow Up, moving into your first apartment, I was a sophomore in high school, freshman in high school during that time. Obviously, like, that's all I want to think about, getting out of my stupid town. I'm from Miami. Like, what? Girl, like, please. Like, you grew up in such a cool place. But, you know, leaving my high school, leaving my family, blah, blah, and having that, here I am in my new apartment, and my parents just dropped me off in this whole thing. So she's always she's the perfect aspirational age for me, that what she's going through, I'm going through, and we got engaged in the same year. So I'm like, damn, we are just like so on the same wavelength, me and her. We are intrinsically twined. But I think that's what really keeps it going. And regardless of how she changes sonically, her vulnerability and honesty has been just so unwavering. Even when maybe people think her songs are more superficial, you know, depending on the album or whatever. That essence of what makes her her is just always there. And she's always has something where I'm like looking around, like, does she have hidden cameras in my house? Like, how did she know this? It's just it's insane when an artist can do that. And she's not unique to the fact of that fact, but obviously for me, that's just like, it was like a puzzle piece, you know, when I first heard her music. And like, that's it. I mean, I locked. It was literally, like I said, like a switch was flipped. It was like, well, that's it. I'm locked in. I'm married now to this pop star. And now it's been 20 years. So like, she can't do anything that would make me waver at this point. I am so Swift pilled. It's like not even funny. I'm totally brainwashed, and it's fine. You're allowed to be a fangirl. I think one of the things I regret most as a person, because Taylor Swift was pretty cringy, and, you know, people made fun of people who like Taylor Swift and all of that. Throughout the whole era, it was, you know, whatever, because girls like her, because women resonate with her. And I so regret not like interacting with Taylor Swift fan pages on Instagram. Like, my friends knew I liked her, but I wasn't like wearing merch, because I just felt like I was already shy enough. I don't need a target on my back. And when I discovered like TikTok Swiftyism and Twitter, like Taylor Swift stuff, I was like, this is the most fun I have ever had on social media. Where the hell? I could have been doing this the whole time. And like, none of my friends like Taylor Swift, or at least in the way that I do. And it's like, I could have been connecting with people who feel like I do online, on Tumblr, on Instagram, on MySpace, whatever. And so letting yourself be a cringe ass fan person is so important and healthy. And like, truly want to like be go as crazy as you want. Like, have directioners be your guiding light. Like, love your music with all your heart. And like, I would be afraid to buy merch. Now I have so much Taylor Swift merch. I wear it all the time. I love when people are like, oh my God, I love your Taylor Swift cardigan. I'm like, I love yours. Like, I love the community it brings. And so I know this is a tangent, but oh my God, lean into the cringe obsession of your favorite music artist. It's so important, so healthy, and like, you'll so regret not doing it. Just like, do it 100%. Music is that important.
What you said about Taylor Swift not being too cool for school, I do think that's what's really cool about her persona, is that she's, I guess, she's made it cool, or at least socially acceptable, to like be a girl, you know, like
Yeah.
she's girly, she dresses girly, she talks about, you know, her feelings, her vulnerabilities, and she doesn't try to be one of the boys, she doesn't try to be cool or like have this guard up. And I do think I think, at least historically, for a girl to like become popular, she had to kind of be cool or kind of be like the guys, or at least a girl that the
Sexy
guys,
or something.
yeah, exactly. But she didn't even lean into like her sex appeal or anything. Like, she stayed away from that in the early years, and it was purely about just like feelings and just being herself, authentic, vulnerable. And I do feel like that it's a very important niche, or a very important space to show girls. Like, it's okay to just wear dresses. It's okay to have these feelings. Like, you're not weak for it. Like, this is just a normal part of your experience. And I do think she exemplifies that important, I guess, role in society. And then one more thing you said about when you were first a Taylor Swift fan, it was kind of a guilty pleasure, like you wanted to hide it. And that was something I wanted to ask you about, is, you know, being a Taylor Swift fan has had varying degrees of like cultural capital. Like, it's gone through phases where it was uncool, and then cool again, and then uncool, and then cool again, to like Taylor Swift. And I guess I was curious, why do you think that is? Why do you think it's so polarizing to just like or dislike her music?
I think that just comes with anything that is popular. People like to be contrarians in a way. I mean, I think of the Beatles, I think of Madonna, I think of Michael Jackson, I think of these like Elvis. I mean, freaking U.S. government deported Elvis over to Europe because they didn't want him to be playing desegregated shows. I mean, I think when anything gets popular, there's kind of an equal and opposite reaction, particularly with Taylor Swift. And I would say a lot of women in pop music, like the smear campaigns that they go through, I think it definitely just has to do with like, Taylor Swift is so not, and I sort of hate this phrase, but like, she is so not male gaze at all. There is nothing that's like appealing to men really about her. You know, that patriarchal standard. She is so, and that, like you were saying, she's such a safe space to be cringy, to be boy crazy. You know, sometimes you are, or girl crazy. Sometimes you are just like, you get a little bit crazy with your hormones or with your emotions, whatever. Like, it be like that when you're 15. Like, it's okay to do that. And like, she just creates such a safe space for that. And I think that is a little also threatening, because when people are like, look how cringy Taylor Swift dances, I feel like what it really is like, I could never have the confidence to dance like that on stage. I would have to make sure I was perfect, or else whatever. And it's like, how can she feel so free to dance like that and not care when she's on this world stage? And I think people feel very like up in arms about it. And it's just like, because that's not what she's about. I don't go to I don't listen to Taylor Swift music for the choreography. Like, that's just not why I resonate with her music. And so I think that's kind of why, is like, oh, if you relate to this, I have to undermine it. So whether it's all she does is write about her boyfriends. And I mean, I think part of that is people were so threatened, because Hilary Duff said this in a recent interview. She really changed the standard for pop stars, because now we have a pop star that writes, sings, and performs her own songs. And Britney Spears wasn't doing that. Christina Aguilera wasn't doing that. Maybe Madonna had some songwriters. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't contribute to their own music, but to have an artist like Taylor Swift at 19 write album completely 100% by herself, Speak Now, had other artists scared. Because other artists I mean, and it sounds silly and it sounds like I'm being cocky, but like, that wasn't the standard for pop stars. You had, I mean, Diana Ross and Dionne Warwick had all their songs written for them. Burt Bacharach was a songwriter of the 60s. The Beatles, they didn't write Twist and Shout. They didn't write Till There Was You. I mean, it was very common to do that. And so she created this new standard of like, you got to be relatable. And part of that is like writing your own songs, being so hyper personal. And I think because she does that and she does that well, not everyone has that level of vulnerability. I mean, she puts out her diary to music and has the entire world criticize it. She talks about her most vulnerable things, her mom getting cancer, whatever it is. And she lets the entire world hear it and ridicule it and criticize it and pick it apart. Y'all bitches could never. No, you couldn't. You couldn't if I paid you $1 billion to put out your diary to music and have the whole world criticize it. And she does it. And I think that's really threatening. And so you have to undermine it because you could never. I could never. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, it's so personal. And the backlash that she gets from it. And it's one thing to write a song that's very surface level, I want to rock and roll all night and I party every day. If someone doesn't like that song, okay, it's not really your true feelings. It was just a fun little ditty that you wrote. But when you write something that's like so personal, intrinsic to something that really happened to you, and then someone criticizes that, someone's criticizing your own personal experience. They're not criticizing, I put my hands up, they're playing my song, Butterflies Fly Away. Like, it's just a very different, even though that's actually kind of a personal song, whatever. But you get what I mean. There is a guard up when you have surface level lyrics. And I feel that it makes it easier to take criticism because you didn't put your soul, your blood, sweat, and tears in it. Maybe you put your vocalist in it, you put your work in it, the recording studio. I'm not saying it's not work, but in terms of the lyrics, and I think with Taylor Swift, because she is so personal and vulnerable and just like slits herself open and lets it pour out, it's like people are so threatened by that because in order to compete, they would have to do that. And they can't do that. Mm-hmm. And so then it's like, or they don't want to because it's scary. So it's like, oh, we have to tear it down because I don't want to have to rip open my diary and have the whole world criticize it. So we got to rip her down because she can't keep getting away with this. Mm-hmm. I think might be part of it. And I think just general misogyny. I mean, the Madonna smear campaign, the Diana Ross smear campaign, it's just pop divas can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if she releases a song that's really vulnerable, some people might get cringed out by it because they are uncomfortable with their own feelings. They're scared of being vulnerable, so they feel uncomfortable when someone else is being so raw and vulnerable. You get this like secondhand sort of like, like how can you talk about that or whatever.
Yeah, like it's supposed to be hush hush.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, if she were to write a superficial song, she would get criticized for that too, because it's like, oh, see, she's not that good of a songwriter, like, whatever. Like, maybe she doesn't write all her own songs, So, mm-hmm. Like, basically, I feel like when you're just that successful, that famous, there's just a target on your back, because you're the easy person to kind of hate on, because it's, like, always punching up. Like, if you're going to hate on someone famous, Taylor Swift is the person to do it, because she's just so much bigger, and it's just, like, an easy target. There's no repercussions for it.
Yeah, your criticism isn't going to affect her, so you can really just throw however you feel into the ether, and it's, I mean, in a major impact way, it does end up affecting her, right? One snake emoji maybe not affect her, but when there's billions, that really changes the cultural zeitgeist of what the snake emoji means and what all, whatever it is. But yeah, in general, it's like, with little criticisms, whatever you think about her song lyrics, she ain't gonna see your Twitter. She's not, so it's like, you can kind of get away with just putting it out there without really causing any harm necessarily. So it's easy. And I think because people know they resonate with Taylor's vulnerability and people like cry their eyes out listening to her songs and like are heartbroken, it's kind of like an easy target on you as well, because it's like, ha, this song made you cry, like, or whatever. You're like, it has this sort of like what you said, the cringiness, the cringe factor.
Yeah, and cringe really just comes from a place of vulnerability. That's really what it is at its core. And yeah, I guess people who don't show that vulnerability can feel a sense of superiority over someone who doesn't suppress it and is showcasing it. You know, growing up in this generation, like regardless of whether you're a Swiftie or not, Taylor Swift has always been in the background. Either her music is or like just part of this cultural zeitgeist. And you know, over the years growing up in like the past 10 to 15 years, I hear all this like negative stuff. Like, you know, she only writes about her boyfriend, or she goes through a lot of boyfriends, or she's playing a victim, or like I've heard all sorts of things, and I never really knew like the details behind it. But then like a few months ago, I wrote an article about like a Taylor Swift deep dive on her whole career, and I really went into every scandal and controversy. And it just made me realize like she's not as controversial as a lot of other celebrities out there. Like there's people who do actual crimes and like terrible stuff. And like
I know.
Swift's worst offense is like releasing a dramatic album, or like I don't know, I just find her to be way less controversial in her actions in comparison to other famous people, but she gets so much more hate. And I do wonder if it's just because she's that famous that it just makes her an easy target.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this earlier. She, at the end of the day, she's rich, pretty, and white, which also makes her an easy target. You don't want to be, as a white Twitter user or white, you don't want to be punching down a black woman who is trying to make it into her career. That's gonna. I'm not saying. I mean, you shouldn't punch down anyone, and I'm not saying like people of color get away with it. That's totally not what I'm saying. But I think she has that extra protection of privilege of like not having that much adversity in life in terms of racial adversity, class adversity, queerness, debatable, but that depends on what type of Taylor Swift fan you are. But in terms of being, trans or something like that, so I think that also makes it easy because she's really like in no sense of the word, besides being a woman, in a position of disadvantage, I guess. So I think that just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and being, really rich and being conventionally attractive, that also softens her from a lot of misogyny she otherwise would face if she didn't have those privileges. But yeah, that's a good point. Like she's in a very enviable and aspirational position. Like you look at her, she's beautiful, she's successful, she's talented, like she's seems to have everything. Like obviously nobody has everything and we don't know her personal life, but
Yeah.
on the outside her life really seems so aspirational that it's just easy to hate on someone who seems to have everything.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, of course. We all have that person. It's like, oh, you're so annoying and you're nice. Jesus, why do you have to be nice? Why can't you be an asshole like I am? Because otherwise, like I look really bad. But you can't because they're so great. Yeah, those people suck. No, like I get that feeling. I remember reading like an article about one of Taylor Swift's high school friends saying like that's how a lot of people felt about Taylor Swift in high school. It's just like, oh, she gets good grades and the lead in the school play and she has it's like, okay, screw you, whatever. But
yeah, that was something I read too, that she was like bullied, or like she just didn't really have a lot of friends in high school. And I'm like, why? She's like the perfect mold of like a popular girl. And then I wonder like maybe that's the reason why. Like maybe they were threatened or intimidated by her. Like not many high schoolers show so much career ambition from such a young age. And that age is just cool to not care about things. So
yeah. I think that's the main thing is like, again, in high school, it's like you're so scared of putting yourself out there and everything. And here comes Taylor Swift, who just gets up and sings a song about a guy in the crowd at a talent show. And you're just like, I couldn't even give a school project in front of the class without turning red. And so that's like, so the like audacity of her to be able to do that. Or you think of like, Lady Gaga. I mean, she was bullied because she would like sing in the cafeteria like Rachel Berry. And I mean, to the point where her classmates freaking made a Facebook page saying, Stephanie Germanotta, you'll never be famous. Because how dare she be confident enough to get up and sing in front of people and have that career and put herself out there and dare to flop and dare to play in empty parking lots. I mean, both of them. I mean, how many? I mean, there's zillions of times, I'm sure, where Taylor Swift was playing in a crowd of like 4 people and her high school friends were like, look at this flop. I mean, really, like, look at her. And, and then you're successful. But like, I think that's really what the envy is just like, no, we're all supposed to be insecure and shy. How can you possibly push through that? And like, by you pushing through that, you show such a contrast to all of us who are too scared to ever even try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. Like, high school has a different set of social rules than the real world. But yeah, so you've been a fan of Taylor Swift for 20 years, and you said, like, there's not much she can do that would make me not like her. But I am curious, are there any sort of criticisms you have of her? Maybe songs that you don't like as much, certain things you disagree with?
I mean, I do believe like no one should be a billionaire, and I think Taylor Swift should really take notes from like Dolly Parton, who has like actively made the choice not to be a billionaire. Like Dolly Parton makes the conscious choice to donate enough money and to give away things enough so she doesn't reach that point. And I mean, Taylor Swift, part of it is like obviously it's her catalog, it's her net worth. That's very different than like owning a company. And I was thinking about this earlier because I was preparing for this interview and thinking like part of it is like someone, typically a catalog like Taylor Swift's is owned by a record company, not one individual person. So that net worth of her catalog gets distributed through the executives. But because she is the sole owner, all of that would get distributed between whatever, I don't know the music industry that well, 50 to 100 people, whatever, gets funneled into one person. Even though it's the same amount, it just obviously like, but then at the same time, she's the rightful owner, right? Like she produced it and with streams. And people are always saying, how if you become a billionaire, you have to have had exploited people along the way. I just don't know where Taylor Swift has done that necessarily. I think maybe she could do better in like sustainable clothing. I think a lot of her clothing is just made in like Philippines or China or whatever. Some of her merch can be a little bit cheap, so maybe like more circular in that way. Sustainability gripes a little bit with the jet thing. First of all, she's not even in the top 10, and also like she is an internationally touring artist, so I'm just like not sure what the other option is in a lot of ways. Versus like taking Kylie Jenner, who's not an internationally touring artist, and going from like just Starbucks to Calabasas or whatever. But I, not to throw another person under the bus, that was just the first person I could think of. But like, I do think a lot of things is like any criticism you can say of Taylor Swift, there's someone else who's doing it a lot worse. She's just getting the flack. But I do think she could make a little bit more of a conscious effort to like not be like to deal. She gives away so much money also. I mean, there's always like so much, but like something like Dolly Parton's like Reading Rainbow Foundation and other things. I don't love that she's a billionaire, honestly. But I also don't know really where the unethical part comes from because of she's the ownership of her music. All is what is ever told is the bonuses that she gives to her crew and the truck drivers and how much money she gives away. So it's just like, I want to believe that she is making a conscious effort and is constantly trying to just give away as much money as you can. I mean, you see pictures of her giving out wads of cash as tips and stuff like that. So I think she is trying to be as generous as possible. But I think with how the tax system and the 1% system is set up in the United States, it's not enough just to be like a good person and give away money. You actually have to like consciously fight against the system that allows you to be a billionaire, which of course is so tempting because money is power and like why wouldn't you want to do that? And Scott Swift is a financial investment, so naturally like there's that aspect. She grew up in like an investment Wall Street sort of mindset. So yeah, those are some gripes that I'm just like, that would make her 100% perfect in my eyes, I guess. Like, but none of us are 100% perfect. I go through phases with songs. Sometimes 10 years later, it hits you like a ton of bricks, and you finally kind of resonate it and get it. But there's like sometimes I'm like, all right, Diva, I don't totally get this one for right now. But like I support you. I'm always gonna support you, even if it's not like my most played. I'm also a really big album person. I don't shuffle albums. I don't really like shuffle music or I don't do a lot of playlists really. I like an album top to bottom, start to finish. And when you listen to an album top to bottom, start to finish, all the songs are a piece of a puzzle. So even if I don't like the song as an individual, unless it's really egregious, which like she only has one where I like unless I'm in a really, 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 really good mood, I will probably just skip because I just don't like it. I keep it because it's part of the story, part of the flow, part of the album, and I just don't like skipping songs in an album. Um, but yeah, so in that case, so there's always a purpose for one of the songs, even if I don't instantly like am obsessed with it. I like it in the context of the album, or I can always rationalize. I can always find something that I like about it. Again, I'm totally brainwashed. I mean, it really is. And I admit it. I admit that I see her through rose-colored glasses for sure.
What's the one song?
Thing is, it's one of her hits. That's the problem. And it's kind of a controversy. Like, people really like this one, and I feel like people are getting mad. I just don't like Bad Blood.
Oh my god, I was going to guess that.
I'm like, Taylor, you are such a good, and I like the verse too, but the chorus, I'm just like, what happened? But like, again, in certain contexts, like sometimes I'm a runner, and like when I'm running, like that song can really hit. Even with the Kendrick feature, I don't need it. I personally don't like love when Taylor Swift does male features. Like, don't super love Endgame. But again, in the context of Reputation, I like it. And Bad Blood in the context of 1989, I can roll with. But like, typically, I really don't need it. If it's on the radio, I really don't need it. I just like, that was one, even more. I mean, everyone hates Me from Lover, but like, I will listen to Me 1,000 times over Bad Blood, which is crazy, but I'm just like, I'm like, the chorus, I mean, it's just so like, not her. What happened? Now we have Bad Blood. We used to be Mad Love. What? Like, what? It's just like, what? It's that I continue to be perplexed by that. I don't understand like why it became a single and why people. I'm like, really, that one? That's the one that people like? Yeah, that one really. I just don't understand it. Like, it just kind of misses me. Like, I don't get why people are really into it. Again, I like it sometimes in the context and like I can get into it, but on a regular day, that's truly the only one that I'm like, what happened? I'm like, yeah, I just don't get what happened there.
Yeah, but actually I don't think that's an unpopular opinion. I think most people do think that's one of her, I guess, weaker songs as well. Like, you know, that's one that you skip when you're listening to the album.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. I just feel like it's like such a hit, like one of the ones that were on the radio, and that's why. And it's like one of the ones where I'm like, this doesn't represent her. Like, don't take this one as like, this doesn't represent her. She's better than this kind of thing. Yeah, but it has its moments. I can't totally. Again, I can rationalize anything. Like, I can totally, and I like the verses, but yeah, that chorus I just don't get.
Yeah, and what you said about being an album person, I remember in one of your videos, I think you were talking about Red, which is like your favorite album, but you said like you define an album or like a perfect album as like this one comprehensive story, like from start to finish it takes you on a journey. You can't remove a song, you can't add a song, you can't rearrange the songs. It's like a book. You read it in order and you can't miss it or read it out of order. And I was curious, if you were to view Taylor Swift's entire discography that way, where each album is a chapter, then what do you think the story would be?
I mean, I think a lot of it is really just like, it's so coming of age. I mean, she just has, it's so personal and diary entry like that you get what it feels like to be a 15-year-old girl from the perspective and written by a 15-year-old girl. Not what some CEO, Universal executive, not what a team of songwriters thinks what a 15-year-old girl feels, but what she actually feels. And then you get the 17-year-old, and then you get the 19-year-old, and then you get, you know, growing up, you get the budding pop star versus the superstar versus the canceled person versus the, you know, flop era versus the, again, total superstar era. that it's just a really beautiful like coming of age story, just watching her grow up. I mean, I mentioned this before. It's like I feel so like personal and parasocial to her that like now going from listening to her, you know, teardrops on my guitar to her new album when she's talking about getting married, it's like, oh, this is just so like what a story. And I mean, it'll continue whether it's the marriage or the divorce or the kids or whatever it is. It'll keep evolving because she has that way of weaving her life into more of a story that has a beginning, middle, and an end, even if it is filtered and obviously like trimmed down. Life isn't as clean as that. But I think it's really like this unfolding of a regular teenager inside of like a pop star, or a regular person inside a pop star. Like she is so unrelatable in so many ways, and yet her lyrics resonate with billions of people. It's just like, man, how does that happen?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of it's because she tells universal truths. She just tells universal feelings, and she does it so fearlessly and so vulnerably in a way that is like, oh man, I can't believe you just said that, but also I feel that way too. And that will, you know, that will never go away. That will continue to like, there's always material there, I think. And so, yeah, I just like, I love this story, like because I'm in my engagement era. Like I love so many of the songs on Showgirl because I'm like, you know what? I also feel cringy, and I'm in like my homeowner not motherhood. Nope. But like my gardening homeowner, like I love to bake. I love to cook. I'm a fucking feminist. I'm like the crazy woke person, like from my high school. Like all of that. But that doesn't mean I don't love my fiance, and I don't love to like bake cookies and garden and create a beautiful home. And this Showgirl album allows space for that. You can be a billionaire badass girl on a world tour, but like still just want like your loved one and like dreaming about kids on a basketball hoop. Like it's just, and you know, people call that cringy or out of touch, but it's like, but I feel that way. So what does that say about me? Or like people hate the song Eldest Daughter. And I'm not saying it's her best lyrically, but like as someone who is like kind of cringy and like whatever, like I'm not a bad bitch or this isn't savage. Like I feel that a lot of times. It's like in this world where it's like chic to be numb and it's chic to like have this wall up. Like I'm not like that. I'm so emotional. Like, you know what? I get that, dude. In this world where we all have these personas and these walls up, like and we're cutthroat. And ladies, if he doesn't text you back, delete his number immediately and cut off your friend and blah, blah, blah. New era, like all this. It's just like, I'm also not a bad bitch or a savage. Thank you for saying that, even though they're roasting you in the comments. Like, that's that's her essence, really, is she says the things that are maybe too cringy for other people, and, but that's what makes her relatable.
She makes it cool to be uncool, I guess.
Or just validates it. It's like not even, it doesn't have to be cool. It's like, she just validates, like, I'm also like a tall girl and like not that great of a dancer. Like I can learn choreography, but I just don't look good dancing. Like I don't look, and my arms don't, it doesn't, whatever. I look like Taylor Swift. And it's just like, yeah, dude, you shake it off. That is not going to stop me from dancing. Like, why would I let the cringe and the fear of looking bad take away the most like beautiful form of human expression, which is dancing and singing? I can't sing that well, but like, God, can you imagine letting that fear prevent you from like enjoying such a like an innate beautiful human thing because it's cringe? So it's just like she gives space for that, of just like allows for these innate human things. They don't have to be good or cool, but just validated, which is just so nice.
Just hearing you talk so passionately about Taylor Swift just makes me appreciate her. I guess like I never considered her vulnerability. I've always just analyzed her songwriting, but it's like, it's so true. She is really vulnerable, and she's like always putting herself out there regardless of how people take it. And I do find that, like, say what you want about Taylor Swift, but you can't deny she's an amazing songwriter, and she keeps getting back up and trying and being vulnerable, which I think is something we can all learn from. And yeah, now I'm like tempted to just go and listen to her music right now. But
Yeah. It's sort of one of those things. Like, you just gotta hand it to her. Like, she wears her heart on her sleeve, and that girl's a trier. Like it or not, like she tries and she takes the feedback and comes back. Like, I don't know. There's just something really admirable about that. I mean, she has a lyric, "I've never been a natural. All I do is try." I was never naturally cool. I'm not a natural dancer. I'm not naturally that talented. I don't naturally pick up sports that well. Like, I gotta put in an effort with things, and like that's so relatable of just like she tries, and like people think it's desperate or she's a try hard, but like in the words of Addison Rae, she's like, at least I'm trying. Like, you're not trying at all. And in a world where like apathy is so, and like being numb and beta blockers and like whatever these people are saying, it's like having these intense emotions, whether they're cringy or whether they're outlandish or whether they're like insane. I want to brainwash you into loving me forever. I'm like, I feel that though. Like, I feel that though. Why is that bad to feel that way? And she just creates the best, most safe space to do that. Like, it's just a nice little like hug. It's a big sister thing. It's like I guess, well, I never had a big sister, but like that's how I feel. It's just like, oh, I don't have to try to be anything around you. I can just be, and like you get it. You get it on a, like a molecular level.
Oh, well, that's like really nice. I mean, that's what music's supposed to be about. That's the most beautiful thing when you can feel just secure and comfortable and just your true, raw, authentic self. And the fact that there's an artist out there that can make you feel like that, that you always have access to, regardless of when or where you are. I think that's a beautiful thing. But
it is. It's just what makes music like just amazing, is that it could do something like that. It's so cool.
yeah, well, that brings us to almost the end of our interview, and thank you for staying on for extra time.
I mean, nerding out about Taylor Swift and music is like my dream. I'm loving this. I'll stay all day.
All right, well, I have a few recurring questions I ask every guest at the end of each interview. So I guess we'll get started with that. The first question I have is, what is your definition of art?
Ooh. I think it's just like the act of creating, whether it's good or bad. I mean, like, it can be art, it can be bad art, but that is like, I mean, it's still art. I think when people put sort of this, it has to be good or fine art or appreciated, it's like, it doesn't. It could just be like a kid's drawing, but like that's that kid's art right now. Like, it can be bad art, it can be art that you don't enjoy. But I think people take this like, if I don't like it, or if it's not perceived as prestigious, then it can't be art. It's like, unfortunately, like the graffiti on the side of the wall, whether you like it or not, is art. Even if it's low effort, even if it's whatever, it's a form of art, but you know, you cannot like it. That being said, I don't think typing in a prompt into an AI chatbot is an act of creating. I don't believe that you're creating anything. If anything, you should write a short story instead. But I don't believe is creating really anything. I am so focused on tangible things, like whether it's in music, like I like real instruments, songwriters, etc. Like, I don't really do a lot of EDM or electronic music. If I want to hear a bass line, I want to hear it from a bass guitar. I don't want to hear it from a DJ booth. And with like modern, or with art, I tend to lean more, like I love marble sculptures, because of just the sheer impossibility and effort that goes into it over, let's say, a Jackson Pollock, which I perceive as less effort, or a Rothko, which I perceive as less effort because it's more scaled back. But just because I perceive it as less effort doesn't mean it's not art. Just because I don't like K-pop doesn't mean it's not a form of art. I can just think it's bad art. But I think if you're creating, if you're putting it out there, it's art, whether you like it or not. And it can just be shitty. That's fine. Like, you don't get good art without shitty art.
So then, by that logic, I'm curious, why wouldn't like writing a prompt into AI be art? Because it is kind of an act of creation.
I think it's not, you're synthesizing, or not even you. Like if you were to have a prompt in your head and then done this contextual research and putting into that human experience to like create whatever this animation is or whatever the prompt, the image is, but like it's not, I guess for me, a lot of art is perceived as like effort, and that just doesn't seem like it's taking the easy way out of art, and it's sort of like maybe like a paint by numbers, and or a coloring book in the same way. Those like Lego flowers. That's actually a better thing. It's like, well, someone else designed this flower bouquet for you and gave you instructions. Yes, you created it, but it's not really from your brain, I guess. But I mean, my issues with AI, I'm just not an AI person. And for at least most things I can understand for like medical situations, but I just think like in terms of if you want this act of creating a prompt or writing a prompt, whether you're producing an image or producing a video or producing a response, art requires like the human the human part of it, and I think that just gets lost when it's filtered through like a synthesis rather than your own research and your own research coming to conclusions. Yeah.
This authenticity, like you're taking something from inside yourself and putting it out, like creating it outside of you. Like you have to put some of yourself into it.
Yeah, and it's you have to like that's the thing. Even if it's like, oh, splatter paint, Jackson Pollock, it's not that hard, but like he flung the paint. Like he bought the paint, he flung the paint, he he bought the canvas, he let it dry. There's stuff in there. And so when it's just like, I feel like the difference with prompt writing is that just feels like a demand. Jester, create me some art. Like, okay, you made the sentence, you made the act of creating the sentence. Yes, but that feels more like you're demanding art to happen, and you're just describing, hey, this is the art that I want. But you're not really creating the art. You're just creating a sentence that is demand. I think that is my, now that I'm untangling that web, I think that is my logic, my reasoning.
Yeah, and I do feel like our definition of art will change over time with AI. I mean, who even knows what it will turn the world into, but I don't want to get into that. But yeah, the second question is, what is an unpopular opinion you have?
I don't know. Unpopular. Besides not liking Bad Blood, I feel like I hold my opinions with such conviction that I'm like, I don't even realize it's unpopular because I'm like so strong into it. I mean, I think sustainability is coming more and more around. I haven't had Amazon since 2020. I deleted my Amazon account. People are like, how do you live without it? And I'm like, it's not hard. I share my fiance's family's Prime, but I'm like, that's us stealing from Amazon because we're password sharing. So I'm like, they're actually making less money by me doing this, which I kind of love. But I'm like, when people are like, how do you do it? I'm like, it's not that hard. I'm not doing it because of like what they do. So yeah, I think that's kind of an unpopular opinion that I don't even think is unpopular because it's just like so natural for me. But people are always very shocked.
Yeah, I mean, you've hacked the system, so.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and then number 3, you have to recommend one song or album to the listeners. What is it?
Ooh. Oh, I have been on a big kick of the song "Stay With Me" by Lorraine Ellison. It's from like the 60s. It is like, you want to talk about like the original Crash Out song? You want to talk about vulnerability? You want like, she in the best way like sounds to scream crying into the mic. It is so beautiful.
Where did you go when things
She starts out like with vibrato and it's wavering and it's soulful, and then like when it hit, she's just wailing, and and the crescendo of it all, it is so, like, it's so good. And it's one of those, like, it's an oldie song or whatever, but damn, like, that is like a drunkenly sing with wine. I don't drink, but like imagine and like fall on the floor. It's like really, yeah, that's a good one. You guys will enjoy that.
Oh, that's awesome. I love when music is a cathartic experience. Like you're done singing and you feel like just so tired afterwards. That's a good sign.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that brings us to the end of our interview. I'd love for you to share where people can find you and share what you've been working on.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Dion the Taurus. I don't post that much on Instagram anymore, but YouTube I post every Thursday. And TikTok I post a lot. I talk a lot about Taylor Swift and just sort of like shit post often. And then on my YouTube channel, a lot of like sustainable fashion stuff, niche aesthetics, relating fashion to music. And then it's also like gardening season coming up. So home improvement since I bought a house, and kind of DIY stuff to like also live a sustainable life. So all those things.
So I love your YouTube channel, and thank you so much for coming on here. I had so much fun talking to you about all these topics.
Likewise, this was so fun. Oh my goodness, I loved it.
All right, and yeah, congratulations on your engagement as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you for being on here, and yeah, that's all. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.